of the Texas food scene. Chef Skinner is an award-winning chef whose creativity and passion for storytelling through food have made him one of the food scene's most unique culinary voices. His foray into the culinary arts started at the age of 4 with his grandmother, Mimi, whose gourmet cooking store was also the site of his first restaurant, La Vie en Rose. Those lessons and experiences have continued to shape him over the years and can be seen in Isha, which is known for its inventive and immersive dining experiences, and The Preserve, a restaurant that beautifully celebrates his Choctaw heritage by blending indigenous traditions with modern cuisine. Chef Skinner's work goes far beyond cooking. It's about honoring culture, history, and community through the ingredients and stories he shares. Tonight, we'll get a glimpse into how food connects us, preserves history, and inspires new ways of thinking about what we eat. Today, Chef Skinner will provide a cooking demonstration, after which we will have a brief Q&A to take questions from the audience. Afterwards, guests will be allowed to sample the dishes he has prepared. Now, please join me in giving a warm welcome to the 2025 James Beard semifinalist for the Best Chef Texas, Chef David Skinner. Thank you.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be here in Halito, which is hello in Choctaw. So I am a member of the Choctaw Nation out of Oklahoma. I was just in Choctaw, Mississippi Monday, giving a talk to the Mississippi Band of Choctaws at the Indigenous Tourism Conference, and so happy to be back here in Texas. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about probably one of my favorite dishes, but also one of the probably most famous Choctaw dishes, which is called Tanchi Labona. It is a corn and pork soup. The kind of history behind it is pork. Does anybody in here know when pork showed up in America? Everybody thinks it was here to begin with, but it wasn't.
Spanish, 15-something.
1540. Good memory. Yes, exactly. DeSoto brought pigs to the Americas in 1540, and so that's about how old this dish is. So a very, very old dish. As you may or may not know, but corn is, one of the sort of three sisters, the other being beans and squash. And so pretty much all the tribes, especially in the Southwest, those were kind of their three staples. And then they would supplement that with different proteins, typically a lot of small animals, so rabbits, possum, squirrel, you name it. And the Choctaws originally were in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, believe it or not. Anybody like gumbo? Yeah, well, you can thank gumbo, thank the Choctaws for gumbo. So they taught the Creoles to use sassafras to make gumbo. And they were the ones that knew how to basically kind of process the sassafras tree into filet for gumbo. So kind of a unique little tidbit there. So it's an interesting, I'm not going to show you the whole process because that would take a little bit of time, but basically what we do is we nixtamalize the corn. So the way that we do it at the restaurant, we have a wood burning hearth, and so we use the wood ash from the hearth. Basically you just need alkali substance. You can do it with lye and other things, but we just use the ash. And what you do is you get the outer shell of the corn off, okay? And so anybody in here know what hominy is? Yeah, so hominy is basically nixtamalized corn. And so that's what we're going to use tonight. You will get to sample all that. The other thing that I brought, that we won't be able to demonstrate, but I'll show you, is a cornbread called banaha, and you will get to sample this. We have it outside also, and the Choctaws would typically they would call it shuck bread. So if you think of a tamale, that's basically what it would look like. They would wrap it into a corn husk and then typically bury it in the ground under the fire, and it will kind of cook that way. Tonight I brought you kind of more of a loaf because I thought it'd be a little easier to eat. We make this with blue corn that we get from the Navajo Reservation. It's going to be really delicious. We put a little bit of a wild honey in it also, so it's going to have a little bit of a honey flavor to it. But that was very much a kind of a staple. So I mean, corn, beans, and squash again were the big things that they tended to side on. And the reason it was called the Three Sisters is they would grow them together. So the Choctaws were really good at agriculture and with hybridization. And there's a Choctaw corn that they're bringing back. We've got a bit of the seed right now, but they're trying to propagate enough so there'll be a lot more. But the Choctaw corn would grow to be 20 foot tall. So most of the cornfields you see today, the cornfields maybe 7, 8 feet tall. Imagine one that's 2 to 3 times that tall. So like a 2-story building, that's how tall the corn stalks used to be. And the corn cobs were a couple of feet long also. And so they would plant them together, so the corn would grow, the beans would grow up the stalk, so it would give it the structure to grow around. And then the squash would provide a ground cover, keep moisture in, keep some of the pests away, things like that. So very symbiotic. And when they would be through harvesting, they would till everything back in, and those 3 plants actually provide the nourishment back to the soil to regenerate it. So very, very symbiotic relationship. Anyway, we have a couple of dishes at the restaurant where we kind of highlight all that. One of them is a traditional kind of Three Sisters. Well, it's not really traditional. It is traditional, but we do it in a very different way. So typically the Three Sisters tends to be more like a soup or succotash, things like that. Growing up, I had it hot, cold, hot and cold, lukewarm, you name it, with some kind of vinaigrette on it. There was always some version of squash, corn, and beans at pretty much every meal. But tonight we're going to focus on chanchi labona, which, like I said, has a very interesting past. The pork, as you rightly pointed out, came to the Americas in 1540, so a very old dish. What I've got tonight is a bit of a smoked pork jowl. So this is typically what we use in the recipe. We add chicken stock because I think it just makes it a much richer dish with the chicken stock. And then we use the mixed corn. So I've already got the corn ready. What I'll do is go on and cut up the pork, and we'll get that sauteing, and then we're going to add in the chicken stock and the hominy and get this to going. We've got plenty of it for you tonight, so you should get a nice big bowl. If you have questions while I'm doing this, feel free to ask. I don't mind answering questions along the way. Sometimes that's easier when you have a chance to remember it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How would we order that from the butchers?
So if you're going to get it sort of pre-smoked, really you just want pork jowl. Just ask them for pork jowl. You can use pretty much anything you want for any part of the animal. I just think the jowl is really nice. The Italians love it. They call it guanciale. It's a nice piece of the pork that also I don't think gets used as much. We do a course at the restaurant where we use venison cheek. And so cheeks, jowls, things like that, just a lot of times used to be very much kind of the trash, cuts, and then a lot of times they go into sausage and just whatever. But I think actually it's some of the most tasty. On the venison, it's one of those where it's just, the cheek is maybe like this big, so it's a lot of work to get it out of the head. We have to really clean it well, get all the silver skin off, and then braise it for about 8 hours because it tends to be a very kind of tough piece also. Yeah. We kind of just do this kind of fairly uneven cuts, kind of rustic. It wasn't really ever thought of to be kind of a super fancy dish or anything, but it's really tasty. And Ishtia is our Native American restaurant. The Preserve, we actually closed in August and reopened our other restaurant called Eculent, which is more of a modern gastronomy restaurant. It's the one that I was kind of named Willy Wonka for. But Ishtia is, and Ishtia stands for to begin in Choctaw. So we kind of viewed it as a new beginning. There's very few Native American restaurants in the country. Matter of fact, about a dozen or so, which seems really kind of unusual. You think there's like 10,000 Mexican restaurants, and the history of the people, the foods, the ingredients, some of the techniques are all very similar, but just not very many Native American restaurants.
Why are there so few, or why do you think there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's just Native Americans have kind of gotten a bit of a bad poker hand, you might say, between the forced removal from their lands and everything else. It's just, I think, kind of how it's been. So, I think not a lot of knowledge or interest. The funny thing is, there are over 60 different cuisines around the world that have been influenced by native ingredients. So I always ask people, think of an Italian dish and then take away tomatoes, and then take away like onions and garlic, peppers. All those things came from here. There was a version of onions that existed in Europe, but tomatoes, all that came from here. And so it's kind of hard to imagine Italian food if you take that away. Same thing with potatoes and all that came from North and South America. And then if you think about like Thai food, which is everybody thinks is super spicy and which it is today, but 500 years ago it was very much like Native American food because they didn't have chilies, they didn't have papaya. So if I asked you name a Native American dish, what would you think of? Fry bread.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So fry bread, Indian tacos. It is. They're delicious, but they're also bad for you. And so we don't serve fry bread at the restaurant at all. Because fry bread came out of, I mean, you can look at it one way and say it's a food of resilience. You can look at it the other way and say it's, from basically oppression, right? So fry bread came because when they moved, like my tribe from Mississippi and Alabama to Oklahoma through the Trail of Tears in the early 1800s, a lot of them died on the trail, but because their foodway was completely changed, the government gave them substance, right? And so that was basically processed sugar, processed flour, and lard. And that's what they had to live on. So if you think about that, what can you make with that? Well, they made fry bread, right? And but if you think about having basically a funnel cake for dinner, that's kind of what it was, right? So again, delicious, but not very good for you. And that brought on, heart disease, diabetes, all of the sort of bad things. And yeah. And if any of you want to come up and look at this, you're more than welcome to. Basically, it smells good, though, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah. It's like, who doesn't
I was
like
just gonna ask how
pork?
well are you cooking the pork?
Yeah. So you can kind of see, I like to get it to where it starts to get a little bit of a crispiness onto it. And then it's basically about done at that point. You're more than welcome to take photos. I don't mind that at all. Normally I drain off a little bit of the fat, but tonight we'll just leave it in there. So this is my great grandmother's recipe for this, and she was a feisty woman. She had a bit of a deformed hand, a little bit like a lobster claw, and tell you what, that woman knew how to pinch you. If I got out of line, man, that claw came after you, and that was it. Did not mess with her.
So that's the corn you said?
This is the corn. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we already basically had it ready. If you were going to start from scratch, of course, you'd use basically a hard white corn. Soak it in wood ash and water, and then it basically swells up, and then the alkali helps get the outer shell of the corn off, and then we just kind of wash it a few times. So all we had, should have told you that, but this is basically just corn that we've washed the shells off, and then water. So what happens is the water, it sucks up the water, and so it engorges itself, and then it gets large. And this is basically about how she would make it, and then she'd cook it for a couple hours on the stove. She'd also sometimes throw in some extra fat and so forth. But I found, partly because I don't want to put more fat into it, but I think it makes it just better. It's a little bit of chicken stock. Adds a little more hardiness to it. And so, so basically, this would just continue to cook on the stove, bring it up to a boil, bring it down to kind of a slow simmer, and let it go. And the corn will continue to soften up. It will also suck in all the flavors from the pork and the chicken stock, and just turn out to be really delicious. So. The other thing that's a little different when we serve it at the restaurant than what my great grandmother used to do is we use a bit of fried corn on top because I think every dish should have a bit of texture to it. And this is going to be very soft, and so I like to have a little bit of crunch, so we'll put some fried corn on top. Adds that crunch and a little bit of extra depth, and also a little more corniness to the dish. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to tell you, I brought a little clipboard. If you want to put your name and your address down, email address, I'm more than happy to send you like recipe and other things if you want. Also, we've got some cards up here for Eculent with a QR code that you can get to the website and so forth. You're more than welcome to take any of that and so forth. But yeah. Now it's really just kind of wait for this to cook a bit. Luckily, I do have lots that's already cooked and ready to go. So. Questions would you like to have answered? Or questions about the restaurant or anything?
What is the most popular dish at your restaurants?
That's a kind of a hard question to answer, but I'll try. I'll give you a couple answers. So we do a tasting menu, so we have 18 courses, so people don't actually choose, they just come in and this is kind of what we're serving. And we're getting ready to change the menu later this month to more of a kind of winter focus. Right now we're still kind of in a summer, early fall menu, but we'll move it over to a winter menu. But this is definitely one of them. The Choctaws and Chickasaws kind of came out of the same area. They were considered almost like brothers. And Chickasaw have, I think basically it's the same dish, but they call it pashofa. And it's really pretty much the same dish, but the Choctaws call it tanchiolana. But this is definitely one of, I think, people's favorite. We do a dish I was saying called Deer in the Woods, where we use venison cheek, and we braise it for about 8 hours, so literally it just melts in your mouth. And then we wrap it in potato ribbons and fry it. And when we serve it in basically a potted plant that's grass, and so it's kind of hiding in the grass, so you have to like pull it out of the grass to eat it. That's one of the favorites. You'd be surprised how many people just die for the cornbread. Yeah, it's really, it's not your kind of typical cornbread that you might make at home. And then, let's see, the other ones I would say, we have our Three Sisters dish is a little different. Like I said, usually it's kind of more like soup or succotash, and I thought I had Three Sisters every way possible growing up, but I figured out a new way to do it. So we use a diver scallop because again the Choctaws originally would eat a lot of seafood, and we serve it in the actual shell of the scallop. But we take 3 different squash. Typically it's like zucchini, acorn, and spaghetti, which I think works well. We'll make kind of think of like a donut out of it. And then in the center we'll put corn butter, which is kind of our own little creation. It's what we do is we take corn and we juice it, and then we run it through a sieve 3 or 4 times to make sure there's nothing but just pure juice. And then we'll put that in a pot and slowly heat it. And when I say slowly, typically we'll spend like an entire day heating one pot of this up. And what happens is the starch in the corn will congeal and basically turns into like butter. It has kind of the texture of butter, has very much kind of a creamy, buttery taste to it. But it also still tastes like fresh corn. And the reason you have to do it so slow is as soon as you start to cook the corn, you change the starch in it, and it starts to basically kind of almost caramelize. And the other thing you'll get is it'll burn on the bottom, and as soon as anytime it starts to burn, it's like you're going to throw it out at Walmart. So it's taken me to probably a couple of years to get the staff to where they know it's like just leave it alone. Don't touch it. Just leave it. But anyway, we'll put corn butter in the center of the donut, and then put the scallop on top, and then we decorate it with flowers from the garden and so forth. And it's a stunning dish, but people just go nuts over it. So that's one. Right now on our desserts, we're doing a chocolate sorbet that's made with tepary beans that we get from the Pima Reservation. So a lot of people are thinking beans and dessert, not so much, but it really adds a creaminess to the sorbet that's fantastic. We do a bean dish with tepary beans. The Pimas are one of the few that still grow tepary beans. It's one of the few kind of heirloom beans to North America. And there's three varieties. There's a black, brown, and a white. We tend to use the black mostly, but they have kind of a nutty flavor to them. And it's one of the hardest beans. We literally will cook them for 8 to 10 hours, and they never turn to mush. But it's still got toothiness to it. It's kind of crazy, but really hard bean. And so we'll do that, and we'll cook it with bison. So we serve a lot of bison, elk, deer, and a lot of times we'll end up with a lot of scraps left over from the bison. We're trying to figure out what do we do. We try and have zero waste at the restaurant, so everything has kind of a purpose. And so like the corn husk from the corn, we dehydrate, and then we put it in the oven and basically kind of burn it and turn it into a powder that we then make meringue out of. So it's a kind of a charred corn husk meringue. That's the decoration for, we do a corn tres leches dessert also. And that dish is all corn, 100% corn. So we make a corn tres leches. It's very much like the cornbread. So we do the corn cake, then we have 3 milks, but one of the milks is that corn juice that we use to make the corn butter. And then we top it with corn cremosa, and then we use a chicha morada, which is basically a purple corn drink from Peru that we make. We also turn that into a sorbet that we serve with it. But we turn the chicha into a gel, and we use that on the dish too. So it's like everything's totally corn. So one dish is like beans and chocolate, and the other is totally corn. So that's your two dessert choices. But that one, everybody really loves that dish. So yeah, the whole thing that we do is it's all traditional flavors. But kind of more modern presentation to it. So we're trying to get people to understand that this food doesn't have to be all kind of rustic. It can be, but you can also really elevate it with a little bit more. Other questions? Yes.
Do you find that there's a lot of crossover with like native food and traditional like Mexican foods? Because I was thinking like this dish you're making.
Mind you,
essentially pozole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, some peppers in there. And it's
pozole. Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's. I mean, if you think back to 500,000 years ago, indigenous people in Mexico and further north kind of ate the same thing, grew the same things. They would share, seeds with each other. They would trade with each other. So, which kind of how potatoes ended up all the way up here when they really started in South America, right? So, all of that used to kind of migrate around before colonization. And so, there's a lot of similarities, which is why when people call me and they're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to like Choctaw or indigenous food. I'm like, well, do you like Mexican food? Oh, we love Mexican food. I'm like, then trust me, you're gonna love this. We may have a few different preparations and a few different ingredients and so forth, but if you like Mexican food, you're gonna like this. I like the peppers and things. That would be not traditional Choctaw, but base ingredients: corn, beans, squash, rice, and then fish, small animals. There's a lot of dishes that I would like to introduce to the area, but I can't get the source ingredients, right? So, like, I'm allowed as a tribal member to hunt bear, and I can take 2 bear a year. But even if I kill the bear, I can't serve it in the restaurant because I can't have it processed. And the funny thing is that Choctaws, besides being really good at agriculture and sort of hybridization, they were good at sort of animal husbandry, and they developed their own breed of Choctaw pig, which the reservation has a herd of. And I've been trying to get some, but I can't get the USDA to let me process it, so I can't serve it. I could get one and eat it at home, but I can't process it, so it's like kind of useless. But yeah, there's just things like that makes it kind of weird. But yeah, I've got recipes for bear and skunk and possum and squirrel and you name it, because they ate all of them, right? But you have a hard time going to Cisco and asking for bear.
Yeah.
And by the way, we don't buy anything from Cisco. But yeah, you can't find it. So we're kind of stuck with things that we can't get. So like venison, bison, rabbit. We do a lot with rabbit, and then on the seafood side, shellfish and different fishes and things like that. Yeah.
You also mentioned the corn. You said that you get from that you were bringing back. Is it
the Choctaw corn?
The Choctaw corn. Is that part of like one of the ones that are essentially going extinct because of the?
They did go extinct, and they. So if you ever travel a little bit further north and are anywhere close to Durant, Oklahoma, I highly recommend go to the Choctaw Cultural Center. It's fantastic, and they have a walk-through diorama of what the camps used to be like, and they have a diorama of the Three Sisters. And you look up, and it's like, because when you think about a 20-foot corn stalk, it's kind of like, okay, well, how big? When you look up and you see them, 2 stories in the air, it's pretty dramatic. From what I understand, they found like a pot that had the seeds in it, and so they're now bringing it back, and we're on their seed program, so we get every year kind of shipments of these heirloom seeds for us to try and grow. We're having marginal luck with it down here. I think it's just a little too hot, but I'm hoping for a 20-foot corn stalk.
Planted around your property.
Yeah.
Do you know that seed is also big in those seed banks that are in Europe?
I think they probably have sent it to one of the seed banks. There's probably, I don't know, 7 or 8, maybe 10 different heirloom seeds that they're working on kind of bringing back. But the corn was kind of the one that really caught my eye, and it was kind of the most dramatic. But there's a Choctaw squash, and there are growers in Oklahoma that are growing that. It's probably the closest I can think of is it's like looks a little more like a spaghetti squash on the outside, but the inside is more like a butternut. So it's an orange squash, but grows in kind of more like a uniform oblong kind of shape. And I can remember my great grandmother cutting it into slices, and so that's what they would typically do. They'd harvest it in the summer. They would slice it into rings and then hang the rings over a fire to dry it out, and then use that for stews and things in the winter. And it has a nice kind of smoky, flavor to it, but dries very evenly and very easily. But yeah, a lot of different. I mean, it's sad and sort of amazing at the same time if you think about all the different sort of plants and vegetables that we've lost just over the years. That seed banks and other things are trying to at least preserve or bring back. So yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? How are we doing on time?
It's 6:15.
I know we started late, so I'm like,
yeah, you
I'm
have like
off.
5 more minutes and then we can
5 more minutes and then, oh, okay.
Native Americans have dairy.
No, there were no cows here.
Goats.
Don't know if there were goats here. I don't think there were goats here either. But no, dairy was not typically part of a native diet.
I guess like spices, if we're eating spices.
Not so much maybe what you might think of spices like, peppers and things like that, but lots of herbs. So one of the things that we do, summer's maybe kind of our, spring and summer are probably some of the most fun seasons at the restaurant because we have a bunch of different foragers that work for us that go and gather things. So like ramps are one of my favorite kind of wild vegetables. Ramp looks like a green onion but taller, tends to be about this tall, and they have leaves that kind of like this. So whereas a green onion is just kind of a stalk, these things have leaves that come off, but it tastes like if a green onion and garlic had a baby. That's kind of what a ramp would be like. Really delicious. And so we will get those foraged for us. Typically kind of April and May is kind of the growing season for those. And when those come in, we will clean them. We take so it is, if you've seen have you seen a green onion that like pulled out of the ground? Anybody? Or just at the grocery store? Okay, yeah. Yeah, everything in the grocery store is like uniform and pretty, and the stuff that grows in your garden's not that way. But they'll tend to have like really long roots, like 4 or 5 inches long. So what we do is we cut the end of the bulb off, we save the root, and we dry the roots, and we'll use those for garnish. We take the bulb, which is maybe about 4 inches long, something like that, and we pickle those and then use them in various dishes, so we can use them to add kind of a depth of flavor to things or just serve them by themselves. And then we take the leaves and the rest of the stalk and we ferment that for about 3 months, and then turn that into a steak sauce that we use. And everybody goes totally insane over the steak sauce. I have so many people are like, if you just bottle that and sell it, and I'm like, you just don't realize how hard it is to make that. And literally, when we put it on the plate, we use an eyedropper because it's really intense. You don't need very much, but a little goes kind of long, I think. But ramps, we use ramps. Steam nettles, have you heard of those before? Yeah. About poke, heard of poke? Yeah. Yeah, so those are things that really delicious, but you have to cook them because if you don't, you're gonna have a really severe stomach problem. Nettles have little tiny hairs on them. It's almost like insulation. And my staff has also learned about a lot of these ingredients because they weren't used to it, and they would just grab it out of the sack like, oh, don't do that. Just go start washing your hands now because they are going to itch for another couple hours. That and then same with poke. You got to really cook it to be able to. We get in besides nettles, we get like wood sorrel in. So wood sorrel is really nice. Both nettles and wood sorrel, when we cook them, we save all the cooking liquid and we'll strain it and reduce it down. It makes really great tea, so you can use it for that. Again, we try and have like zero waste, and so whatever we can do to reuse some byproduct from vegetable, animal, whatever, that's kind of what we tend to do. But those are things that we use for flavoring, or herbs, which was very interesting when we did the preserve restaurant with Chef G from Street to Kitchen. So her background is Thai. The Thai people, same kind of thought process and things, very similar ingredients, not corn, but the different herbs and how they cook things and so forth. And so when we were researching for that restaurant, we were able to really get a good understanding of kind of the similarities between the two. It was quite amazing. Good?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
More
So-
questions then.
Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you, Chef Skinner. And I do appreciate this demonstration, and I want to sincerely thank you for coming out and providing this incredible cooking demonstration. And I want to thank our audience here and our audience that is joining us online at home. Before we wrap up, I do have a few announcements. So Chef Skinner will be on site for a few minutes after the event, so if y'all want to chat with him, ask him a few more questions, or take a photo with him, please, stay after a little bit longer. Feel free to, also, if you don't have a library card, please go up to our customer service desk, get a library card. You'll be able to check out some of our wonderful books, videos, some of our cookware. We do have cookware that you are able to check out as well, and other things. And also, finally, visit our website online at www.houstonlibrary.org, and you can check out some of our other upcoming events, such as including author visits, other cooking demonstrations, and other events. Thank you so much, okay? Thank you.